Today we're going to try to recreate the Lord of the Rings style font. I'm going to start with my text tool and perpetual tilting MT font set on bold. Now I'm going to have to do quite a few different layers here. I'm going to have to get L, the or, the, each on their own layers, of the on its own layer, R on its own layer, ing, S on its own, and then S on its own layer. So I'm going to start with my L, get the size that I want. You can just move that over on top of here and get that matched up pretty good. I'm also going to want to make it a golden color. You can kind of just pick one off of there to start with. Now I'm going to do the ORD on its own layer. Same thing, I'm going to come down here, hold down Control, get that the size that I want it. Good. Continue the same process for all the different sections. So one for here, one for the of the, one for R, ing, and S. Each need to be on their own layers. Now one thing I want to point out is on the ing down here, the I is shorter than the N and G. So I'm going to get on that layer and highlight the I, and it's at 90 point right now. So let's try an 85. That looks about right. Maybe let's go 80. That looks pretty good there. So you can see you got the different sizes there. Alright, next thing I want to do, I'm going to do this to one layer, and then later I'm going to show you how we can copy it onto all the other layers. But I'm going to click on the ORD. I'm going to go to my effects, and I'm going to start with a bevel and emboss. Now the choices I want to use a chisel hard, make the depth a little higher and the size till it starts to look like a hard edged stamped thing. Now the next thing I want to do is change the angle of the light, because on this the angle is coming from below. On the original it is. So you can move that down to there. There we go. We also notice that it's kind of roughed up and kind of beaten up. So one way we can do that is add texture underneath our bevel and emboss. As soon as we add texture, this is one of the default textures in Photoshop. You could download a better texture, but we can still make this bubble one work. You can see some other ones here. So I'm going to take the scale and turn it up to where it starts to look better. And then you can take the depth and maybe turn that down a little bit so it's not quite as bad. That looks about good right there. Going back to my bevel and emboss, I'm looking at the shadows on here, and those look a little dark, so we can lighten those up here. And we can brighten up the whites there. Now it also looks like it may have some sort of drop shadow to help make it stand out from the background. So in the same dialog box you can click on drop shadow, add the distance just a little bit, size just a little bit, spread just a little bit, and you can see that a little bit better. There we go. Now that we've got this laid out the way we want it, we can copy that to all our other things. If you hold down the Alt button while you do this, so hold down Alt, click on Effect, and you can drag that up to the, and there it showed up on the. If you just move it, it'll just move around, but if you hold down Alt, you're able to copy it. So I'm going to do that to all my layers. I'm going to go ahead and add a darker background so you guys can see what's happening on here a little better. There we go. Now there's some places like on the R where it's chunked out. So for that I'm going to go to the R, add a mask with my black brush. I'm going to choose this brush here. Maybe make it a little thinner. And we can rotate that the angle we want. Looks like that's a good angle. thinned it out. Now then, with black on the mask that we just created, you can start to take away chunks from your R. And we see it on the S also, so we just do the same thing. And that's a pretty basic way of doing Lord of the Rings font.